Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking the book of Daniel and completely transforming it from those familiar Sunday school tales into what it really is, a historically anchored, incredibly structured ancient masterpiece. I want you to close your eyes and really picture the setting for a second. We aren't talking about cartoonish feltboard stories here. Imagine a hyper-realistic, historically accurate 605 BC Babylon. Picture cinematic lighting, volumetric rays streaming through the dust, towering brick ziggurats casting massive shadows, and just the sheer, overwhelming scale of an ancient superpower. We are going to explore how the text of Daniel perfectly weaves together hard archaeological evidence with a stunning literary blueprint. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover the rise of Babylon, faith in the empire, a symmetrical literary masterpiece, kings, pride, and judgment, unearthing biblical Belshazzar, and finally, visions of the future. Let's jump right in. Section 1. The Rise of Babylon. We have to start with the physical reality of the Babylonian Empire and its most ruthless architect, Nebuchadnezzar. And we've actually got the receipts for this. This timeline is completely verified by the clay tablets of the Babylonian Chronicles, specifically the Jerusalem Chronicle you can go see in the British Museum today. It maps out Nebuchadnezzar's incredibly swift rise to power. In 605 BC, while out campaigning, his father dies. He rushes back, takes the throne, and just a few years later, in 597 BC, lays a devastating siege to Judah, capturing its king and its treasures, which is exactly how the very first chapter of Daniel sets the stage. Just to give you an idea of the sheer EO involved here, look at this quote from the East India House inscription. Nebuchadnezzar absolutely loved to brag. Scholars actually estimate he used a staggering 15 million stamped clay bricks to build Babylon's massive walls and temples. So, when Daniel chapter 4 has Nebuchadnezzar looking out over the city and boasting, "Is not this great Babylon which I have built by my mighty power?" it is perfectly historically in line with a king who was completely obsessed with his own architectural legacy. Section 2. Faith in the Empire. Now imagine being pulled from your homeland and thrust into this massive, sensory, overloading capital. Young exiles like Daniel faced immense daily pressure to assimilate. First, they attacked their very identities. Their Hebrew names, which honored their god, were stripped away and replaced with Chaldean names honoring Babylonian gods. Names you probably know, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But they pushed back where they could, starting with refusing the king's rich food to maintain their ritual purity. The ultimate test, though, happens in the plain of Dura. Commanded to bow to a 90-foot-tall golden idol, they literally chose a superheated furnace over compromising their faith. And the text records this incredible moment where they emerge completely unharmed, without even the smell of smoke on their authentic Hebrew clothing, accompanied by a mysterious fourth figure in the flames. Section 3. A symmetrical literary masterpiece. So, the architecture of the book itself is just as meticulous as those massive walls of Babylon. While the book starts and ends in Hebrew, the middle section switches entirely to Aramaic. But here is where it gets incredibly cool. It folds in on itself like a giant literary mirror. It's a blueprint called a chiasm. Look at how this works. Chapter 2 opens with a dream of 4 Gentile kingdoms. Jump down to chapter 7, and it mirrors this exactly with a vision of 4 Gentile kingdoms. Chapter 3, God's servants rescued from a furnace. Chapter 6, Daniel rescued from a lion's den. This perfectly symmetrical structure is designed to draw our eyes directly to the center of the book, chapters 4 and 5. Section 4. Kings, Pride, and Judgment. Right in the dead center of that literary mirror, we get a massive contrast between 2 kings and their staggering pride. In chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar is struck with a madness. He literally thinks he's a wild animal and eats grass for 7 years. But crucially, he looks up, he humbles himself, and his kingdom is restored. Then you have his successor in the narrative, Belshazzar. This guy throws a massive, blasphemous feast, arrogantly drinking from the sacred gold and silver vessels plundered from the Jerusalem temple. He flat out refuses to humble himself, and well, his empire gets completely destroyed. Which leads us to Section 5, Unearthing Biblical Belshazzar. Talk about a terrifying party crasher. During Belshazzar's feast, mysterious handwriting just appears out of thin air on the palace wall. The terrified king brings in Daniel, who delivers a swift, unfiltered judgment. Mene, your kingdom's days are strictly numbered. Tekel, you've been weighed on the scales and found totally lacking. Upharsin, your kingdom is divided to the Medes and Persians. And history backs this up. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, that exact night, the Medes and Persians diverted the Euphrates River, marched right under the gates, and took impenetrable Babylon without a single fight. As a reward for deciphering this doom, Belshazzar makes Daniel the third highest ruler in the kingdom. But hold on a second. Why only third? If Daniel just pulled off this incredible feat, why not second in command? This is a massive aha moment for archaeology. For centuries, critics claimed Daniel was historically inaccurate because Babylonian records named Nabonidus as the final king, not Belshazzar. But in 1854, the Nabonidus cylinder was unearthed. This clay cylinder proved that King Nabonidus had actually gone on a long journey to Arabia, leaving his eldest son, Belshazzar, behind as co-regent. Belshazzar was the second in command, so making Daniel the third ruler was literally the highest possible promotion he could offer. It is just a stunning moment where hard archaeology perfectly validates the ancient text. Section 6. Visions of the Future. In the final chapters, the text shifts back to Hebrew and completely plunges into apocalyptic literature. Think of this as shifting into IMAX quality, cinematic visions. Daniel dreams of 4 terrifying beasts emerging from a storm-tossed ocean, representing brutal earthly empires. But the climax is breathtaking. These predatory kingdoms are replaced by an eternal kingdom, overseen by the Ancient of Days, and one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven, imagery that would profoundly shape later religious texts. Impartially speaking, whether this text was designed to comfort Judeans during the literal 6th century BC Babylonian exile or to strengthen the resolve of people facing Hellenistic persecution centuries later, the core thesis is exactly the same. All arrogant human empires, no matter how thick their walls or how massive their golden statues, have a definitive expiration date. And that brings us to our final thought today. We've seen how this book is an absolute masterclass in literary symmetry, validated by the very clay bricks of archaeology. But as we mentally walk away from the dust-swept ruins of Babylon, we have to ask ourselves, how does this ancient blueprint of human pride, the weighing of moral character, and the inevitable fall of empires still resonate in our world today? What kind of kingdoms are we building right now, and how will history weigh them? Think on that, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.